All right, everyone. This is a video where, let me put it this way. I'm going to be giving kind of my first impressions or overall thoughts on Beauty in Black. So don't consider this like my official review or when I go into theories. Those will be separate videos. It has been made known by an overwhelming amount of people that, hey, Jeremy, look, we know this usually isn't your cup of tea. We know you're not really a fan of things that are overly graphic in terms of the themes and things like that. Hence why, certain shows I've either stopped reviewing, like Ruthless, or, after one or two seasons, I was kind of out of it, like All the Queen's Men. But the fact that I have not seen such a just so many people coming out of the woodworks wanting my 2 cents on the show. I mentioned this online a couple days ago. I believe it was Friday. My sister came by, and the first thing she did when she came through the door was go on like a 15. And I kid you not, I wish I would have recorded it. My phone was on 2% at the time, but this girl went on like a 15 to 20 minute, just not even a rant, but just hey, Jeremy, look, I binged the show last night, 8 episodes, and it was crazy, and there was fighting and all this stuff at the strip club, and, this girl kidnapped that girl, and I recognized that person from, that was Otis from The Temptations, and that was, What's-Her-Face from Divorce in Black, and she just kept going on and on and on. Like, keep in mind, this is my sister, so she knows what I do for a living in terms of, like, reviewing these Tyler Perry shows, but I have never seen her that excited about a Tyler Perry project. Obviously, our taste in entertainment are completely different, but at the same time, that hype was just so, noticeable. Not to mention, it felt like a real life depiction of what the DMs look like or tweets look like for people wanting me to talk about the show. Now, it's 8 episodes long, and these episodes range from like 43 to 50 something minutes. And I mentioned this online Saturday night. I said, okay, look, I'll give the show a shot. You got to bear with me though, because it's 8 episodes, all right? And I still got about 19-ish videos from Zatima and Sisters that I still need to get up on the channel before the new episodes drop in a couple of days. And I said, if possible, I will try to get all 8 episode reviews up before Sisters Wednesday night. I will see if I can do that. Sunday was a pretty busy day. Had to sing at church in the morning. That was like a hour, 20-minute service. Then at 3 o'clock, my church had its 150th anniversary. That was about 2 hours long. And as I mentioned before, after I moved from my mom's house, my house is literally right at church. Seriously, it's like, a grove of trees, a field, and then my church. And it's a 5-minute walk. I know because me and my nephew walked to and from church this morning and afternoon. But I said, you know what? Given the fact that it's a pretty hefty church day for me, I feel like it's best if I waited until, Sunday night or sometime Monday to actually watch the show, kind of get my mind right for it, so to speak. And thankfully, Netflix does have a feature where you can watch stuff at like 1.5 times speed. So overall, I was able to watch these episodes in less than 4 hours. Obviously, I did have to pause a lot because I had to take notes, and there was a lot that went down. Again, I'm not doing my official review in the show. I'm giving my thoughts and things like that. You could probably tell from the title what I thought about the series because, like I said before, I have never seen such an overwhelming amount of people talk about a Tyler Perry project with so much excitement in I don't know how long. Keep in mind, a week or so ago, I hit 7 years of doing YouTube and whatnot full time. And if you count my blogging years, ironically enough, last week, my WordPress blog hit its 12th anniversary. And if you're wondering, WordPress Blog, if you've been on my platform since the beginning, I was a blogger talking about the haves and the have-nots when it came out in like 2013. And it wasn't until like 2016, 2017 when I went over to YouTube. So the OGs know that the blog is actually meaningful. Without the blog, I wouldn't be here right now talking about this show. But I think the haves and the have-nots was probably the last, huge surge of fan excitement. And as I said, for the past few years, Tyler Perry content hasn't really had the reputation of being high quality stuff in years. And what I mean by high quality stuff is I'm not just talking about the way something looks and whatnot. I'm talking about like the script, because one of the most common complaints about Tyler Perry stuff nowadays is the repetitiveness of the dialogue. Now, does this show suffer from some of that? Yes, but I decided to break this video down into multiple sections. I want to talk about the good. I want to talk about the not so good / consistent complaints from the viewers. But let me just say from the start, this show I've heard far more positive things about than negative, which took me by surprise, because let's be real. Oh, this show, you could tell it was filmed in like 4 days, or, oh, look at those wigs, or, oh, the acting is, this, that, and the third. This show is not perfect. Some people think that it is one of, if not the best Tyler Perry show ever. I don't agree with that necessarily, but I can see why people would feel that way. So in terms of talking about the good, let me tell you something that'll make me feel better. If you took a moment to please hit the thumbs up button to show you actually liked the video, I'd really appreciate it. And also, let me put it this way. The more traction this video gets, the faster I'll work to get all the episode reviews out. Because, I've been doing multiple shows per week. Thankfully, this week, Zatima comes to a close for the first part of season 3. So after this week, Sisters is the only show I had to review for, about 3 weeks or so. Meaning that, I won't be overwhelmed with content. So, yeah, all the episode reviews of this show, I could try to get these out as soon as possible. But hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 300,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Follow me on social media. Platforms are in the description box as always. And hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. So let's talk about the good. Similar to a lot of recent Tyler Perry productions, the show itself looks great. I remember looking at the trailer and just blown away by the camera quality. This definitely felt like a movie in terms of the appearance. Like, I just looked at this and I said, man, when Tyler gets behind those cameras, not just camera, but cameras, because, a lot of behind the scenes footage of various Tyler Perry shows and movies, and the cast talk about how, hey, Tyler, when he's in his zone, he knows like what he wants to see. He knows how to get it. And when I tell you, this just looked fantastic, chef's kiss. Lighting choices, outdoor, indoor shots, just everything looked amazing. The cast itself, and I've said this for years, I love it when Tyler Perry pulls back from his, I guess you could say, well, I mean, this might be an old term nowadays, but when he goes through his Rolodex of actors from past projects, it just makes me smile when I see faces from various Tyler Perry projects from across the years. Now, I'm only going to mention a few because I feel like there are at least half a dozen actors who have probably been in stuff, but I got to mention Otis, aka Lucian from If Loving You Is Wrong. He was in this show. There were at least darn near half a dozen. Yeah, there were darn near half a dozen actors from his recent Amazon movie, Divorce in the Black, or was it Divorce in Black, that came out a couple of months ago. Mallory, I believe that's the name of the second main female lead of the series, Mallory. She was in, I think she was in Acrimony. She was probably in a couple different Tyler Perry movies, but Acrimony's first one comes to mind. But I feel like most of us Tyler Perry fans would know her from the series that I didn't really watch back in the day, but I believe it was For Better or Worse, which ironically enough is supposed to be getting the possible continuation of the story in the Why Did I Get Married Again, which will be the third film creating a trilogy, because remember, For Better or Worse was a spin-off series of those movies. So maybe we'll, follow up in that particular movie with this that character. But yeah, just the fact that we have so many casts from past and some present Tyler Perry projects brought a smile to my face, because it's almost like a Where's Waldo or Easter egg hunt, trying to find out, okay, like, hey, that person looks familiar, and it's like, oh, I haven't seen them in years in a Tyler Perry project. But I just love the fact that Tyler Perry is able to create projects like this in order to showcase talent that we either haven't seen for quite a while in certain projects, or perhaps these are newer faces. And by the success of projects like this, they're able to go out and do other things, or even just pop up in other Tyler Perry content. Because I remember the actress that portrayed, wow, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Corey Hardrick's character, Dallas's mom. Yeah, the actress that played Dallas's mom. She was the standout, or like the fan favorite from Divorce into Black. And I remember saying like, hey, she needs to be in more stuff. And boom, here she is portraying Ursula, I believe was her character name. Now the next thing is the story. Now, I think that I want to dip my toe into what I feel like was like kind of the bad of this show. It was a compelling story in some regards, but I think that also leads into the other good category, which is the mysteries, because there are a lot of questions. So yeah, let me just put it this way. It has a compelling story with some mysteries. Those are kind of like the last two things in the good category. But now I kind of got to shift gears to the bad. Now, I want to give Tyler a little bit of leeway here, because of the fact that there are some people who felt like this was a good show. It had the potential to be great, but it felt like the story didn't move far along enough within these 8 episodes. It felt like there was a lot going on, but nothing was really happening. Then you have a lot of people who are like, yo, I watched it like 3 times because I missed a lot of stuff and there was so much going on. I felt it was one of those shows where it was kind of over the top in terms of the theatrics. It looks like it was more about the show than the substance. But when it goes back to what I was saying a few moments ago about how I don't really want to give Tyler a bunch of flack for this, I've mentioned this at least half a dozen times on the channel from the past 3 weeks across various videos. And it goes back to the fact that nowadays, most new shows that come out are via streaming services. And gone are the days where shows get a season 1, a pilot season that is like 20 plus episodes. You have enough time to introduce viewers to the characters, the main story of the series. You get to know some of the characters as the season progresses. It's basically a setup season. And then if the show gets greenlit for season 2, then you're allowed to like flesh out the characters a bit more. Those days are gone. Nowadays, series that come out on streaming services, their initial pilot seasons range from about 4 to 8-ish episodes, 10 if you're lucky. And streaming services, whether it be Netflix or Prime or whoever else, they look at numbers, because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. That's the craziest thing about, growing up and then, transitioning my job from, working for someone else to doing my own thing and reviewing content, where you learn that, hey, entertainment isn't just about, entertaining the masses and giving them content to enjoy. It's more about the numbers at the end of the day. And if the numbers aren't there, then networks cancel a series. It's kind of like when I got older and realized that, cartoons and whatnot are just glorified toy commercials, because a lot of cartoons I remember from back in the day, like Young Justice, for example, got canceled because the toy sales weren't up. And I was like, oh, wow, that's how it works. So when it comes down to it, shows on these streaming platforms, they need to be attention grabbing, eye catching, in order to get people talking about it. And given that this show is number one, I feel like Tyler did succeed in that. However, I felt like there was just a lot going on that it was hard to follow at times. Hence why I had to pause so much and take notes, because, you know, it felt like we were moving at such a fast pace, yet the story itself kind of felt a bit disjointed. However, another reason I'm giving Tyler Perry grace is the fact that this is only the first half of the season, meaning that the back half potentially can follow. Well, I wouldn't even say solve, because remember, this is the first season, but it could at least follow up on a lot of the things set up in the first half. That's one of the main things I wanted to, highlight there, that I'm giving Tyler, kind of the benefit of the doubt that, hey, you know what? A lot of the things that were kind of, like the bowling pins that were put into place, I'm waiting for him to, toss the ball and, get a strike in the second half, because I think he succeeded in terms of getting people talking. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, the majority is talking about this show and in a positive light, and then they're excited. They can't wait for the show to return. By the way, this is a 16 episode season, split in half, 8-8. I believe currently it is stated that the back half of the season is slated for a spring 2025 release. So what, October, November? My guess is just a guess. My guess is that the show might come back around February, March of next year. Don't quote me on that. Remember, that's just a guess. But the show will be coming back. People are like, is it canceled? No, this is just the first half of the season. And I feel like these 8 episodes are going to get a lot of higher numbers as the hiatus goes forward, because a lot of people have said, I wasn't really going to watch it because Tyler Perry stuff is meh. But the fact that a lot of people are talking about it, I noticed in the comments section on the post I made on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, people were like, man, I was getting my hair done and the beautician had, the show on, and I watched a couple episodes and then I had to go home and binge it. Or my cousin, she's like, hey girl, like, did you check out that new show? See, that's how it felt with my sister, because someone who usually doesn't come to me with that, did you see that new Tyler show? That excitement, it's infectious, and that's what's it's a lot of word of mouth is the best way to put it. And I feel like this kind of show is just something people will just continue to talk about for the next few weeks. And what's crazy is that Tyler has way more content coming out soon. 688 is in December. We still got more episodes of Sisters until Christmas. House of Pain, Assisted Living comes back on November 19th. Zatima Season 3B is allegedly coming back prior to 2025. I think The Oval doesn't come until January or February, basically 2025. But yeah, there's a lot more content coming out. Not to mention the films he still is working on, like Sisters in Paris or Sisters in Italy. I feel like there's another film coming out before the end of the year. It's just escaping me right now. Maybe it was an Amazon movie, but I don't know. Look, there's a lot more Tyler content coming out, but I want to get back to the negative category. And this is a personal thing. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. I'm not really a big fan of a lot of things like, nudity, sex scenes, drug use, that kind of stuff. That's just me. It's a personal preference. I am not allowing that to impact, because some people are like, I don't know, Jeremy, are you sure you can review this show without being biased since you don't like that kind of content? I'm not letting my own personal censorship, if you will, impact the score once I actually start putting out the reviews and whatnot. All I'm saying is I think Tyler checked a lot of the boxes in terms of specific elements to series and shows that people talk about in order to get a show gaining momentum online. I feel like there was a bit too much profanity, violence, sex scenes, which I just turned my head for. It was a bit graphic for me. All right. So again, if that's your cup of tea, if you don't mind it, if you don't flinch, That's great. It's just like, for me, I felt like it was a bit too much. And as I predicted, I did videos way back when the character descriptions were put up on Actors Access. I need to make a playlist, by the way, of my Beauty and Black content, because I did videos. I'm talking like back in April, because I remember doing the trailer breakdown not long ago, when they announced the actors, and then when they put up the list of all the various characters, and I said, man, this show definitely seems like it's pulling it. This is Tyler's, because remember, All the Queen's Men was a Christian Keys project, but I remember saying that I think that Tyler is taking this series. He's going to create a show of his own that has elements from the likes of All the Queen's Men and P Valley, put his own twist on it, put it on a huge platform like Netflix, and bring in the views and the money and whatnot. And I feel like this series succeeded in all of those elements. And I'm not getting into the full-on review like I said before, but I do think that in the negative category, it felt like Kimmy was just being pushed around a bit too much for me. It felt like she was a bit too passive, but maybe she'll kind of, get some of that get back in the second half. That's just me. But okay, that pretty much covered the good and bad categories. Now, to kind of round out the video itself, it is, like I said, it is number 1 on Netflix, and Tyler, made a post about it. But this show proved to me that TP still got it. Tyler Perry still has it in terms of writing a script that's compelling, that is capable of getting people talking. And I mean in a good way. In a good way. Because I've said for the past few years that a lot of Tyler's content that's come out since the 2019, the Viacom era, because last Wednesday, that's when we had the 5-year anniversary of Sisters in the Oval. And those, if I remember correctly, those were kind of like the Kickstarter shows for Tyler Perry's series on BET, because I believe that he had just had the gala for his new studio. And they were it was like heavy promotion for his new shows to kick off his Viacom contract, Sisters in the Oval. And then, of course, eventually we had to reboot for House of Pain. We had Assisted Living. Then on BET Plus, we had Ruthless and Bruh. So we had half a dozen shows, running at once. I forgot when Young Dylan came on Nickelodeon, but either way, he had like 6 to 7 shows going. And then, he was wrapping up the haves and the have-nots on the OWN network. And I remember those last couple of seasons, I'm like, I don't know, Tyler. It's like the show's been going on long and is suffering from a lot of problems from, repetitive dialogue, dragged out scenes, characters who are no longer developing. They're pretty much, just caricatures of their original selves. Instead of being these characters, we have, we have a desire to care for them. It's like, okay, why is the drunk? Veronica's over the top. She'll do anything to, get what she wants. You have Hannah, who's like kind of a Christian to a fault to an extent. You have Candace, who's money hungry, this, that, and the third. As opposed to the original few seasons where it's like, you felt like you had to watch every episode. That's something that Tyler Perry shows have suffered from in the past, like half decade, where he used to write shows that you had to watch every episode. You had to pay attention to every little detail. Haves and the have-nots was notorious for a person having to shut down their entire night. I remember Tuesday night, it was a humongous thing. Always trending. You had to pay attention to every line of dialogue. You had to pay attention to little nuanced things, or, specific body language. Like, yo, did you see the way Jim looked at so-and-so? It's like, hey, did you notice that that tie that was hanging on the bedstand or whatever? It was just a whole bunch of stuff you had to pay attention to, because guess what? Tyler Perry will usually come back around and, make that little thing that most people would miss mean something in the grand scheme of things. But the show lost its touch in those last few years. I don't know if it was because of burnout or if Tyler just felt like, okay, I'm going over to Viacom. I got way too much to do and I want to focus on that. And I think that with this particular show, people have been saying the same thing. Man, look, Sisters and Zatima is like, yeah, I haven't been really rocking with them with their new seasons, or season 7 of Sisters, or I haven't been or The Oval. I gave up on that in season 2. This has been the first show that has people like, you know what, boom, like Tyler, woo, I need to see more, and I haven't heard or seen that fan reaction in a while where people have asked for more. The problem, in my opinion, is that Tyler Perry Studios has been putting out too much stuff. If we had 2 or 3 shows that were solid, and I mean that old school Tyler Perry level of quality, because as I mentioned before, I had church service in the morning where, I had to sing. My nephew was there too. He was in the choir to, kind of round it out. This was the first time singing. Me and him walked back to my house after the morning service because, what was it? That ended around 11:30. The anniversary was at 3 o'clock. They were serving food at 1, but we're like, I got food at the house. We'll just eat there and then we'll come back to church in a few hours. He turned on Diary of a Mad Black Woman. I have not seen that movie in years. He wanted me to quote it, and I'm like, hey, EJ, this is before my review time. I know this movie, but this isn't like Sisters or The Haves and Have-Nots where I can do a lot of quote unquote voice acting where I can say these words, lines of dialogue, beat for beat. But I just sat down. I watched about 40 minutes of it, and I'm just like, man, I remember the days when a Tyler Perry content back then was kind of like what Marvel movies are now. Like, it was an event. It's like, okay, I got to see what Tyler's cooking up next. Or, oh, this next episode of House of Pain, I wonder if Janine's going to kick her habit. Oh, I can't wait for this next Madea movie because I wonder what Medea's going to pull. See, the MCU, the Madea Cinematic Universe, that back in the day, that was the Marvel Cinematic Universe for black people. Well, no, actually white people too, because a lot of people love this stuff. But what I'm saying is, Tyler Perry just proved that if he and I knew he could do it because I've been saying this for years, even though a lot of his content is kind of mediocre in recent years, which personally I don't think will stand the test of time to the extent of the original House of Pain series or Have and Have-Nots. I think that it's one of those things where he transitioned his content to what he knows will get the numbers, as opposed to what will get the people going back to a specific project for years and years to come. It's kind of like the debate amongst Michael Jackson fans on which album is better, Off the Wall or Thriller. It's kind of like Off the Wall felt more soulful, and it definitely felt like it was more about the culture. Of course it was like disco and pop infused, but it didn't become the crossover success MJ wanted. Or what he thought the album didn't do what he thought it was going to do. He thought it was going to sweep at the Grammy Awards. However, that wasn't the case. I believe he only got 1 award for Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. And then when he did Thriller, he's like, hey, I want to make the biggest album ever. And a lot of people felt like, in some ways it was kind of a sellout album where it felt like MJ was catering to the masses, aka the white audiences, with rock beats like, Beat It, the collaboration with Paul McCartney, The Girl Is Mine, in order to get that white audience. But MJ knew the pulse of the music industry, and combined with someone like Quincy Jones, who was able to make these sounds a reality, they were able to come up with a project that was a crossover smash and became, the biggest album of all time. Now, personally, I think Thriller has more tracks that I enjoy compared to Off the Wall, but Off the Wall has some bangers. Of course, Don't Stop, Rock With You, She's Out of My Life. But it's just one of those things where you look at what the fan base is going to like, aka Off the Wall, but what the masses are going to like, aka Thriller, and you'll see which one thrives in the industry. And I make that comparison to compare to what Tyler Perry does with his content. A lot of people talk about the negative black representation, the stereotypes, but I'm pretty sure Tyler looked at, okay, what's making P-Valley a hit? I don't really follow that show, but doesn't it only have a couple of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons? And he's like, okay, what makes All the Queen's Men, such a banger? Obviously whenever it comes back, people are talking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't TP write for that show as well? So he's like, okay, if I can take, this element of P-Valley, this element of All the Queen's Men, and some people have been saying this show is kind of like the Haves and Have-Nots. Maybe my eyes were deceiving me. I did watch this series late at night because I took like a 4-hour, I wouldn't even say a nap. I went to sleep at like 6:30, and then I woke up around 10 something tonight. So I don't know. Basically, I could have sworn I saw a couple of houses from the Haves and the Have-Nots. When I go back and do my episode reviews, maybe I can pinpoint it better, but I was tired, so maybe I'm wrong. But several people said that, hey, Jeremy, I think I recognize some of these houses. But more to the point, people felt like this had Haves and Have-Nots elements. But let me put it this way. If that is the case, if a lot of people feel that the Haves and the Have-Nots was kind of like the blueprint of this series, this show is what I don't want the Haves and the Have-Nots to be if Tyler Perry ever revived that show. I said that a long time ago in the video. I said I could see the Haves and the Have-Nots being, I honestly wouldn't want to reboot. You can continue it. But, obviously change that ending where everybody died. Say it was a dream or something. But I said, if Tyler Perry ever brought back that series and put it on a platform like Netflix, BET Plus, I appreciate the platform for what it is. But the Haves and the Have-Nots was such a keystone in the success of where Tyler Perry is now. That series deserves to be on a much bigger platform like a Netflix, for example. But what I do not want, and this is just my personal thing, and Mr. Perry, if you're listening to this, or if anybody in the camp is listening to this, please pass the word along. I personally do not want the Haves and the Have-Nots to come back and be a show that is doing too much with the violence, with the sex, with the nudity, with the profanity. That show to me was like a class act. That was like Tyler Perry showing, hey, I can give you that late night soap opera feel. You'll be talking about it when you get to work the next day. I put out an episode a week. You won't stop talking about it. See, before I started doing the YouTube thing, when I was doing the blog, what kept the Haves and the Have-Nots in the back of my head was that my mom and I, even when I was in Lynchburg, like an hour away from my hometown, we would get on the phone every Wednesday during her lunch break, because when I first started working at that call center, I had like the 1 to 10 shift, so 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift. So I was always able to give her a call before I clocked in, and we would talk about Wednesday's episode. And even when we were in like season 3, we were still talking about season 1 stuff, So I feel like this show does have potential. So if I were to give the first part of the season like an overall score, I would probably give it like a strong 7 out of 10, just because it has a lot of potential. I think it has, even though I only listed like 4 or 5 positive things, I really meant what I said. I think it looked great. It had a great cast. It had a compelling story. And overall, I didn't even bother to look at IMDb reviews or Rotten Tomatoes. I'm talking about the people I see on Twitter, the people I see in the comment section of my videos, the people who are demanding that I review the show. I have not seen an upsurge in excitement for a Tyler Perry project like this in quite some time. In terms of the acting, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, sometimes the script was a bit weak in places, but I think overall the actors did a solid job. And as I said before, it was cool to see certain characters or actors in different roles, like, Lucian, and I'm sorry, I would use his real name, but I'm sorry, I'm just so used to hearing saying Lucian that I can't get it out of my head. It's just one of those things. Charles Whitfield, it's like I'm so used to saying Odish or Lucian, but it's just the fact that he's playing like a completely different character from how he did in Loving You Is Wrong. So to see him in a role like this is cool. And I mentioned this when I did the trailer breakdown, but Tyler Perry knows how to find some and excuse my French, some fine ass black women for his shows. Well, let me give credits like the casting crew as well. Obviously, they play a big role in picking the talent for a show like this. And I gotta say, holy crap, Crystal Stewart, wow, she's a knockout. And Kimmy, I'm pretty sure, wasn't she Megan Good? I forgot the name of her character in Divorce in Black, but wasn't she Megan Good's gal pal in Divorce in the Black? I'm pretty sure she was. But yeah, there's that. But there was just some beautiful women, just knockouts. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure y'all are sick of me talking at this point, but I just wanted to highlight that this show has definitely made an impact. People are talking about Tyler Perry again in a more positive light. Even though I have my particular grievances with the show, I think that the back half is going to do very well. I believe that this is going to be the start of a new era of Tyler Perry, where, first it was originally it was, if I remember correctly, the WB, because House of Pain had a handful of episodes there, but then he took it over to TBS. So you had the TBS era of television, then you had the OWN network era of television, the Viacom era of television, BET and whatnot. And, the past year or so, well, actually, let's just say this year. And now we're currently in what could be the beginning of I want to just call it the streaming era, because of Tyler Perry releasing a bunch of movies on streaming platforms. But now we have, if I'm not mistaken, his first original scripted series for a streaming platform, in this case, Netflix. Actually, obviously Zatima, Ruthless, and them. Okay, those are spin-offs on BET Plus. But let me just say, the streaming era encompasses big platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime. Yes, I mean, obviously, his first streaming movie was what? Fall from Grace, Jazzman's Blues, Medea, Homecoming. Then you had Divorce in Black, and several more coming out. But I think this series, being as big as it is, this is the first of more Tyler Perry shows to come on networks or platforms like this, which is why I have hope that at some point he may in fact continue the haves and the have-nots. Because I've said it before, it's almost like he's going back through his catalog and revitalizing or rebooting his earlier projects. You had the House of Pain series, you had the Pains on the OWN network, which was trash, and now you got the House of Pain series on BET. We had Meet the Browns, the series. Now we got Assisted Living, for better or worse. And now we have the he technically teased this back in 2021, because I remember the third Why Did I Get Married film. And then you could argue that Too Close to Home was the original series that foreshadowed what The Oval is now. I think when you really think about it, the OWN era, aka Have and Have Nots, If Loving You Is Wrong, Too Close to Home was on TLC. Love Thy Neighbor. Yeah, I don't count the Pains because, like I said, hey, the House of Pain reboot. So the OWN era is the only era of Tyler Perry content that has yet to be touched. AKA hey, I want to pick up from this series and, make a new one or continue it. But you could argue, well, Jeremy, look at it this way. You have Lucian from If Loving You Is Wrong in this series. You had Joel Rush, who portrayed Eddie. He was in the Medea family funeral film. So even though these technically aren't a continuation of the If Loving You Is Wrong series, we are seeing some of those actors coming back. And I mean, heck, Joel played a cop named Edward in that film. So, hey. And then when it comes to Love Thy Neighbor, Hattie, I forgot what Hattie was in. I don't think she's been in anything aside from the family funeral movie. Plus, Floyd is in the House of Pain reboot still. So Floyd is technically still around, kind of alluding to the, that series. But the haves and the have-nots, various Tyler Perry actors from the show are in Tyler Perry projects currently. Like, Angela Veronica was in the Mea Culpa. Yeah, I forgot about that movie. That was another Netflix film. The Sisters in Italy, that's Tinka Sumner's project with Tyler Perry. Crystal Fox was in A Fall from Grace, and and Tyler Lepley, he's in one or two Tyler Perry movies coming out. So what I'm saying is, we might get a follow-up. Maybe. I don't know. But this particular series, yeah, this is going to make an impact. This is going to make an impact. So with that being said, that's all I really have to say. Maybe setting the goal of getting all these reviews out before Wednesday was a bit too much of a gamble. Let me put it this way. I will gradually release the reviews. I hope you can be patient with me on this, because as you know, these were some lengthy episodes and there are a lot of notes to go through. So I don't want to just drop them all at once, because they're kind of hefty, and I hope that they are able to generate some traction on the channel, because a lot of fans have felt like, okay, Sisters is boring. Zatima's about to, hey, regardless how you feel about Zatima season 3, this week is the last week, because after this week, it's going to be gone for a few months. So hopefully this will be something to tide things over, until, the fans are excited once again. But, yeah, I just am glad to see a Tyler Perry project being given some good traction online by the fans who enjoyed it. Congrats to the cast. You all knocked it out of the ballpark. Tyler, Mr. Perry, you still got it. And like I said, if you put some more effort in the projects that come out like this, because to me, Tyler's in the mindset of, I feel like his attention is really focused more on his streaming projects. That's why he's handed Sisters to new writers. If I'm not mistaken, the only show on BET, I'm not talking about BET Plus, but I think the only show that he himself is still doing all the writing for is The Oval, because after their first seasons, he gave House of Pain and Assisted Living to other writers. He just handed the keys to Sisters to new writers after season 6. And I think currently, because I think The Oval, they were working on season 7 recently. I don't know if other people are writing that. Hopefully they are, but I think that's the only show. I believe Zatima season 4 is going to have different writers. Ruthless, I believe, has different writers now in their season 5, I believe. Bruh ended, but he gave the show to different people in season 4, and it was just fantastic. And I believe that covers all the shows. So I definitely feel Tyler Perry's in his movie bag. Kind of like, how he first started out, like Diary, Good Deeds, Meet the Browns. So I just hope that when he's focused more on like a handful of projects instead of a bag of projects, we'll be able to see more quality content as time goes on. We're getting next year, and then we're in the back half of the 2020 decade. So I hope that by the time we get to 2030, Tyler Perry is going to have so much content that's good that people will just be like, man, this was something else. This was something else. Because I think that the first half of technically late 2019 and then like the first half of this 2020 decade, it was kind of a rough journey. I mean, yes, the man reached billionaire status and whatnot, but I don't think a lot of his content is going to stand the test of time from the Viacom era, because a lot of the complaints that fans had towards the end of the haves and the have-nots, it translated over to these new shows. So when I knew by the time we got to like the early episodes of season 2 of shows like Sisters and The Oval, I'm like, okay, the repetitiveness, the characters just regressing. These issues that were in the latter half of the haves and have-nots are present in the beginning stages of these new shows. I don't think they're going to last too long in terms of the minds of fans in a positive light, because more and more people say, I quit watching this show, I'm done watching this show. But this show has revitalized a lot of people's, attention for all things Tyler Perry. So, like I said before, I've rambled for too long, but hopefully you all don't mind, because since it's been quite a while since the Tyler Perry projects have gotten this much positive attention, I just had to take time to highlight different areas of it. So with that being said, leave your thoughts on the series in the comment section below. I'll try to get these reviews out, as soon as I can. Bear with me, like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.